Yes, people, hope you're all good. Welcome back to the channel. Little change of scenery, change of style, new mic as well. So yeah, hopefully it makes it a little bit better for you guys watching at home. So in today's video, it's a good one. I'm going to be talking about the fight week diet and running you through the exact strategies that I use with hundreds and hundreds of combat sport athletes over the past 3 years to help them lose anywhere between 5 to 10% of their body weight for day before weigh-ins. The strategies that I'm going to be talking about are specifically used for day before weigh-ins. I'll do day of weigh-ins in a separate video, but for now we're just going to be talking about day before weigh-ins. So why is the fight week diet important on fight week? So first of all, it's really important that you actually make weight. So if you get your diet wrong on fight week, you might not drop the necessary amount of weight required to get you on weight, which would mean that you miss weight. And if you miss weight, you don't get to fight, which is the whole purpose of you being a combat sport athlete. Second reason is that if you don't get your fight week diet correct, then that might place more emphasis on you having to lose the required weight in a bath or a sauna. Now, sweating the weight out isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's about how much weight that you sweat out. So if you've got an individual who is looking to lose 8% of their body weight on fight week and they get their fight week diet wrong and they only lose 2 to 3%, then that means that they're going to have to lose 5 to 6% of their body weight through sweating in a bath, sauna, on a bike with layers on, running, and that's quite a high amount. So for me personally, the targets that I set are to try and lose about 8% of your body weight on fight week for the majority of athletes or below, lose 4 to 5 through your diet, and then lose 3 to 4 through sweating. So you want to try and make sure that you're losing the majority of the weight required on fight week through your diet manipulation strategies, which I'm going to be running you through. So what do I see most fighters get wrong on fight week? The first thing that most fighters get wrong is that they have the wrong diet throughout fight camp. So the amount that you lose through your diet on fight week is dependent on the composition of your diet throughout fight camp. If you've got a diet which is low in fiber, low in salt, low in carbs, then when it comes to taking those nutrients out on fight week, you're probably not going to see much of a loss. Whereas what you want to try and do is have a high carb diet, moderate fiber, moderate sodium, so that when it comes to taking those nutrients out, you'll actually see some losses. So you can't take something out your diet that isn't already there. And that's what the majority of you fighters do on fight week. So it starts with your diet in camp. The second issue is fighters don't understand their own physiology. Expecting to lose 8%, 10% of your body weight in saunas or baths just isn't feasible. It can be done. I've heard stories of people doing it, but there comes real risks when doing it, such as hyponatremia, where your blood sodium levels rise above normative ranges, which can lead to a stroke, heart attack, seizures, very serious if you do experience hyponatremia, which can happen if you are cutting large amounts of weight. And you have to understand that you can't lose more than 10% of your body weight comfortably. Now, all weight cuts are going to be difficult, but if you're constantly losing 10% or more of your body weight on fight week, then you're putting an additional stress on your body that you don't need to be doing the day before an important fight. Fighters also deplete themselves way too far out from a fight. So I've even just read a message now where a fighter's asked if they could start training with a sweatsuit on, and we're 2 weeks out from a fight. All that fighter's going to do is spend the majority of the rest of his camp dehydrated, which is going to affect his performance and also the amount that he's going to be able to cut on fight week. So don't deplete carbs, don't start dehydrating yourself to massive extents before fight week, because the chronic weight loss side of things should be done. So you're not trying to be in a deficit, you're not trying to lose any body fat on fight week. It's just about manipulating your diet to lose water weight. You're not trying to lose fat mass on fight week. So you can up your calories on fight week, be satiated throughout the week, have relatively stable energy levels, and making sure that you're not going through any intense hunger, which can impact your psychological health as well, which is something which you need to take care of on fight week as well. So going into the actual strategies that I like to utilize with the fighters that I work with, we opt for low carb, low sodium, low fiber, water load. We also think about the weight of food the day before, and then we move on to our active or passive sweating modalities. So I'm just going to give a brief rundown of each strategy and how you can implement it. So starting off with low carbohydrates, you want to aim to start depleting your carbohydrate stores after your last hard session at fight camp. This way we know after a nice hard session, your muscle glycogen levels are going to be relatively low, and then we can see that nice initial drop after your last hard session into the Monday of fight week, which fills a fighter with confidence that they can make the weight. You want to aim to start reducing your carbohydrate intake 7 to 10 days out from your fight. You want to aim for anywhere between 30 to 50 grams. Some fighters may need to cut that a little bit more. Some fighters can get away more than the 50-gram mark. So it's about trial and error, seeing what type of athlete you are. But as a rule of thumb, 30 to 50 grams a day is where you want to be aiming for. Can still have pre-training carbs on fight week just to fuel any sessions if you are feeling quite depleted. But most of the time, most of the fighters I work with, they don't opt to have these pre-training carbs anyway, because their sessions are quite light and not too intense. But how much you lose from this strategy is dependent on your carbohydrate intake during fight camp. So you want to aim for a nice high carbohydrate diet in the lead up to fight week. Moving on to low sodium, you want to try and start reducing your sodium intake 3 to 5 days out from your fight. So what research shows is that if you start reducing your sodium intake more than 5 days out, your body has a negative feedback signal which increases a hormone called aldosterone. One of aldosterone's roles within the body is to retain sodium and make sure that you're not losing sodium, because if we lose too much sodium, that can be very detrimental to our health. And your body is very clever and it cannot be tricked. So what we want to do is try and ensure that we're only depleting your sodium intake for 3 to 5 days so that aldosterone doesn't increase. Because what we find is that when aldosterone increases, after a low sodium diet for more than 5 days, sodium excretion matches sodium intake. So in theory, you're not actually losing any sodium and you won't see any losses on the scale from this strategy. You want to aim for about 500 milligrams of sodium per day, which is about 1.25 grams of salt. You need to think about the sodium content in the foods that you're eating and also in your sauces and spices. So for the majority of people, all it might be is that you stop taking your electrolyte supplement and you stop putting sauces and spices and salt on your meals. Moving on to low fiber, you want to again ensure that you have at least 25 to 30 grams of fiber a day throughout fight camp. And then on fight week, you want to cut your fiber intake to 10 grams or less for 5 days. And then we tend to see a loss of about 1 to 2% of your body weight on those final couple of days when you've been restricting fiber for 3 to 4 days. But again, there are reports of some mild discomfort and reduced bowel frequencies with this strategy, so it can be quite uncomfortable for some fighters. So again, you don't want to do this for any longer than 5 days. Moving on to the water load. I've done a video on water loading, so I'll just point you to that video where it has all the information you need on water loading. And thinking of the weight of food the day before. So the day before a weigh-in, you don't want to eat a load of food because all that food is going to contribute to your scale weight the day after and potentially impact your weight. So what I tend to do here with most fighters is just stick to roughly like two meals a day, low in weight, and make sure that they're finishing that last main meal quite early, so we can increase the time gap between the last meal and the weigh-ins, because that way less food is going to be in their stomach contributing to the scale weight. But what I've come to realize with this strategy anyway is that most fighters just won't eat anything on this day. So even just light snacks, calorie dense snacks can be a good option as well. So how much can you actually expect to lose if you implement all of these strategies? It depends on the size of the athlete. So naturally, bigger athletes are going to be able to hold and store more total body water compared to smaller athletes. And it's also really dependent on your diet throughout fight camp. I've had athletes who weigh in at 53.5. Our first camp that they done with me, where we had to lose a load of weight and be quite restrictive with their diet, they only ended up losing 2 to 3% of their body weight. But then after their fight, once they kind of broke that cycle of weight cycling, so going up and down in weight, and we done a camp properly fueled, they lost 4, 5, 6% of their body weight, which is a massive amount, especially for someone that weight. So it's really dependent on the diet that you have in fight camp. And that's why I always stress that you want to try and stop weight cycling, so going up and down in weight, because it will impact the amount that you're able to lose from these strategies on fight week. So I hope you found this video helpful, and please feel free to drop a like, comment or subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you next time.